these past windy days have reminded me of when I first came to this country and we had what I call the real winters. And I remember, leaving, I lived in Holbrook, and I would drive into the city with my cousin who went to Kingsborough College, and so we would try to meet up to make our ride back home. And usually I would take a bus or a train and go to Kingsborough, which, if you are familiar with it, it's just off the belt near Coney Island. It gets really windy. So I would get off the bus, which drove onto the campus, and I would see where I was heading straight ahead. But because of the wind, I would actually aim my body that way and allow, take a couple of steps, brace forward, and between that angle and my efforts and the wind going the other way, I somehow made it to the doorway. We get buffeted by the wind, literally and figuratively. We get buffeted in our life, in our daily work. When we have an agenda, we set a path, we have a goal for the day, and stuff happens. And we sort of adjust and try to still aim and make our goal for that day. I have a little plaque in one of the bedrooms at home, and it says, "We cannot direct the wind, but we can adjust our sails." So a lot of times that's what I'm doing, and I think a lot of us do that. We make those shifts in our daily life, on our agenda, so that we can still achieve the things that we want to achieve. And in many ways, our friend Nicodemus understands that. Nicodemus is a leader of the religious group, and he has been a sort of a gatekeeper. As a Pharisee, he wants to make sure that the agenda, the goals, the essence of the law, of who the people are, will be kept. And so he's very careful about not getting off course, not allowing things to buffet the understanding that he has so that they get off course, that they lose their goal, what he understands to be God's call to this people, that's Israel. And so he hears about Jesus. And he thinks, Jesus is doing stuff that sound as if he is of God. He is a great teacher. But Nicodemus wants to be careful, so he approaches Jesus to really find out what Jesus is about. Is Jesus going to take the people off course? What kind of wind is blowing? And it's really interesting that Nicodemus and Jesus have this conversation that is one of the wackiest conversations you can find in the Bible. They don't seem to be talking about the same thing. Jesus tells Nicodemus about flesh and spirit, about being born anew, and Nicodemus is so confused, he just keeps saying, but, I don't get it. But what Jesus is trying to say to Nicodemus is that the wind, the Spirit of God, is not one that you are supposed to fight against. You need to go with that Spirit. You need to allow that Spirit to take you into places, to meet people that you would not have imagined. You cannot trap God and God's will and God's purpose and God's direction for our lives into a box. You have to allow the God who moved over the waters at the beginning of creation to move us through this life. You need to be open to where God calls you and you cannot set the agenda. You need to be open and ready to move with the Spirit. And we know that Nicodemus somehow made that decision to move with the Spirit. Because later in the story of Jesus' ministry and life, we see Nicodemus appear again. Nicodemus is the one who stands up when Jesus is in front of the religious groups judging him after his arrest. And Nicodemus and Joseph of Arimathea appear at the end of Jesus' crucifixion and death to claim the body. He now is bold enough to step outside what is expected of him as a Pharisee because he's allowing the Spirit to move him. You know, this Lent gives us a chance to be still and to pray and to think about where the Spirit might be moving us. To allow ourselves to be open to God's agenda for us. To understand and trust that where God is sending us is going to be a wonderful, wonderful place because we are part then with him in building God's kingdom. We are to allow ourselves to go beyond boundaries like our God does. We allow ourselves to know people that we would not usually know, like our God who loves the whole world. We are to allow ourselves to see where God might be calling us to serve and to go with the wind, trusting, truly trusting that the God who calls us and who moves us is the God who will care for us because God loves us and came not to condemn, but to save. Abraham and Sarah left their land and their family and moved with the God who called them to a promised land. Nicodemus somehow broke out of his role as guard, as gatekeeper, to move with the Spirit and to follow this Jesus. May we also allow the Spirit to move us into this new thing, always new thing that God is calling us to do, this Lent and beyond this Easter. Amen.
Amen.